So I want to just read a few things from some of the documents that caught my eye. Underserved populations. These are the people who will be on the regional equity team. Everything I'm about to say is coming directly from this document. The term underserved populations means groups of individuals who fall within one or more of the categories protected under the Fair Housing Act and who are of an immigrant population, especially racial and ethnic minorities who are non-English speaking and have limited English proficiency. B, in rural populations. C, homeless. D, persons with disabilities. There's a few more. And then F, populations that have faced generational economic disadvantage, job dislocation, or other forces that prevent them from achieving individual and family self-sufficiency. I don't know why any particular group is being singled out. If we're going to put together a regional equity plan, it should represent fairly everyone that this plan is going to affect. Just my humble opinion. Water infrastructure talks about drinking water, treatment plants, sewer lines, drinking water distribution lines, storage facilities, quote, that ensure protection of public health and the environment. I was told in this meeting that the well water in my property is not my well water. That bothers me, Senator. That bothers me tremendously. They said my well water goes into an aquifer which spills out past the boundaries of my property. Therefore, it's a shared resource. There's a clause in here that talks about compliance with fair housing and civil rights laws. Now, this is key because I'm going to talk about a lawsuit with Westchester County under a different HUD program, which was brought because of non-compliance or accused non-compliance with the HUD, with the Fair Housing Act. It says applicants and their subrecipients must comply with all applicable fair housing and civil rights requirements, including but not limited to the Fair Housing Act, Title VI, and blah, blah, blah. Talks about socio-economic inequality. This is a land use, this is being sold as a land use planning program. Socio-economic inequality. Applicants are required to document measures of segregation and school poverty by participating community and by region. There's another section on economic opportunity. Applicants are required to document the availability of subsidized housing within 2 miles of the region's 5 largest employment centers. Fresh food access. Applicants should document the proportion of the regional population isolated from fresh quality food options as measured by the proximity of full-service grocery stores for low-income and auto-dependent households. What they want to do, the whole gist of this plan, is livable, walkable communities. Has anybody heard of that term?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Eileen will get into that more. So, one of the other documents is a NOFA, a Notice of Funding Availability. In here it talks about equitable land use planning. Because somebody mentioned before that this goes way beyond land use planning. It says the term equitable land use planning means zoning, land use regulation, master planning, and other land use planning that, at a minimum, furthers the purposes of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, and the Fair Housing Act, and are intended to achieve additional objectives for expanding housing choice. For example, inclusionary zoning for housing designed for underserved populations on the basis of race, ethnicity, thank you, and socioeconomic group, incorporation of environmental justice concerns into planning decisions/outcomes, prohibition of the creation or maintenance of racial or ethnic enclaves, unincorporated areas surrounded by incorporated areas, and a few other things. It also talks again about affirmatively furthering the Fair Housing Act. That turns up many, many times. So when I kept reading that, I became concerned. And my concerns were justified by this lawsuit that I referenced in Westchester County. They were, one individual put together a nonprofit and sued Westchester County in 2008 or 2009. It was settled in 2009. This person filed suit, and the purpose for his lawsuit was based upon some demographic data. Westchester County was 70% Caucasian, and because of that, they were deemed to be de facto segregated. That was the basis of the lawsuit. As soon as this person brought the lawsuit, HUD stepped in, took it over. This person in his organization had about $29,000 in his bank account. When the lawsuit settled, he got a portion of the settlement he had, which was over $7 million. This is a cottage industry that is going to spring up across America when they are done with this planning and they implement it through regulations. They define opportunity areas. Opportunity areas are areas like Windham and Rye and other areas where you don't have large, you don't have mixed-use housing, you don't have multifamily housing, or a lot of it. These are the targets. This is what they're going to do, and they're going to charge you for fixing that problem, because that is considered an impediment to fair housing. I'm going to, the next document I have, how am I doing on time?
Maybe 3 or 4 more minutes.
Okay. The next document I have, I'm just going to take a couple quotes here. I spoke to the Chief of Staff of the County Executive in Westchester County. I spoke to him several times. I asked him about the validity of this lawsuit, which was settled prior to the current county executive coming on board. He said that he was against it and they never would have settled. The lawsuit settlement was for $51.6 million. And that money was to build housing in Westchester County where HUD deemed, so that they would then be sold to people who couldn't afford those houses. Here's just a couple quotes. The county, so they were being told by HUD that they were not being compliant. So this person, Robert Astorino, the county executive, said the issue was HUD's backdoor attempts to force Westchester County to take actions that are not in the settlement, that are beyond the county's legal authority and financial means, and that threaten the progress made to date. By its own admission, HUD is demanding that the county go beyond the, quote, 4 corners of the settlement, unquote. Such a demand is unacceptable. The settlement is a fully negotiated contract. HUD has no right to add new requirements. So well, a year into the agreement, HUD came back and wanted him to change it. HUD's approach is to unilaterally move the goalposts in the middle of the game. Its technique is to repeatedly reject a routine document called an analysis of impediments. The settlement calls on the county to submit an AI that's, quote, acceptable to HUD. The purpose of the AI is to outline obstacles to fair housing choice, which the county has done. Prior to the settlement, HUD had never rejected an AI by the county, but now we are up to 5 rejections. People have the right to live anywhere they like in Westchester, and it's a right I stand ready to enforce to the full extent of the law. Where people live depends on the home they can afford. There are lots of homes in Westchester I would like to own but can't afford. That's not discrimination, that's economics. HUD sees a great social ill in this, which it calls de facto segregation. Evidence of HUD's overreach includes the following unjustified demands: that the county dismantle local zoning laws, a power HUD knows full well the county does not possess, as New York is a home rule state. The, quote, specific zoning practices must be addressed include limitations on the size, type, and number of developments in a community, lot size and density, and the number of bedrooms in a unit. In other words, all zoning. Communities will be given 90 days to enact changes, and the county is required, quote, to take action to counter community opposition, unquote. Which, of course, raises a host of First Amendment issues. I'm going to wrap this up. But tied into this is a Fox News, and all of this stuff that I'm reading, this is the county executive, all the other stuff were government documents. This is a Fox News story, but I'm going to read quotes from a couple of people, one of them being the Assistant Secretary of HUD back in 2009 when the lawsuit was settled. Ron Sims, who is the former HUD Deputy Secretary, said, "Today we've taken an important step toward building what we call a geography of opportunity." He went on to say, I'm going to skip some of this stuff to get to the end, but he went on to say, "At HUD, we believe this approach to equitable development can serve as a model for building strong, inclusive, sustainable communities across the United States." That is frightening to me, and I hope it frightens every one of you too. Then the reporter said, "Officials here in Westchester County are vowing to stand their ground. Meanwhile, the Obama administration has made it perfectly clear that the outcome of this battle will resonate across the country." This is the county executive. This is one of his quotes. He said, "HUD is trying to change the rules of the agreement in the middle of the game. We are building housing. As part of the settlement, the county has to build 750 units of affordable housing in 31 eligible communities. Eligible meaning white communities based on the census, 7% or less Hispanic, 3% or less African American. Complying with that settlement and actually finding locations, but blah, 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 in the middle of the game, it's not good enough." I have a copy of the settlement agreement. I think I mentioned it's to build 750 homes, right? Last thing, this is important, is I want to tie everything I just told you to how it affects us. That was Westchester County. That was under a different grant, but a community development block grant. But that had a clause in it that said that they will affirmatively further the Fair Housing Act, which is all throughout the legal documents of this program that we are becoming a part of in New Hampshire and across the country. As part of one of the partners is the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority. That's one of the partners of the Granite State Future Program. They hired NHLA, which is a legal organization, which wrote the 2010 New Hampshire Analysis of Impediments. That's important because in the legally binding documents, it says that the analysis of impediments that will be written for each of the different regions will conform to that 2010 Analysis of Impediments. Now, the NHLA was behind the impetus for passing the workforce housing law a couple of years ago. They have successfully sued municipalities for not conforming to the Fair Housing Act. These people are writing the analysis of impediments for this program. They will know what every town's impediments are to fair housing. And when this is implemented, it's my belief they are currently writing their future income. There is definitely a conflict of interest here. There are a lot of concerns. The partners of this program, it's incestuous. We have people on different organizations that are commingling in other organizations. This is a very serious issue, and we need to take care of it. I've been working with some people over the past few weeks to put together a coalition of people, and we are going to march from town to town, go to meeting, and encourage every board that represents each town, if they're in it, to get out, and if they're not in it, to stay away from it with a 10-foot pole. They need representation of 500,000 people in New Hampshire, where HUD will not approve this grant. It's a total of $4.5 million grant, 3.5, give or take, coming from HUD, and $1 million plus or so coming from the partners. So at this point, I want to turn it over to Eileen. Eileen did an unbelievable amount of research. This woman is so special. She found the things in Arizona. She found the links to Westchester County, to North Carolina. I'm blessed to call her my friend. She's just a wonderful person, and I look forward to hearing what she has to say.
Croc TV.